This is the Toyota Fortuner, and it makes me nervous. Not because I'm about to venture onto some uncharted roads or drive it within an inch of its capability, but it is South Africa's most popular SUV, and I have a few mates who own one. And now I have to tell you what I think. This is the facelifted version of the country's most ubiquitous vehicle, and I have to admit that it now looks the best it ever has. It has all the usual facelift type bits, new front grille and headlights, new front and rear bumpers, and the entire range now comes with 17-inch alloy wheels as standard. It almost manages to command your attention, even in this most universal of Fortuner colours. Before this car arrived at RPM HQ, we all took a guess as to what colour it would be, and the unanimous decision was white. But that's primarily because none of us could ever recall seeing a Fortuner in any other colour besides white. But there are other choices, 7 in total in fact. So if you're thinking of ordering one, why don't you go for one of the more exotic choices like silky gold or dark steel mica. It's the only thing that'll make you stand out from the rest of the Fortuner crowd, and let's be honest, it's a pretty big crowd. And it's a pretty big car. Standing at 4.7 meters long and a shade under 2 meters wide and 2 meters tall, the Fortuner is an eyeful with a big chrome grille and bulging bonnet, giving it an extra bit of muscle. It's not the most interesting looking thing on the road, but it makes up for its generic buckiness with real presence. That scoop actually serves a purpose. It feeds the intercooler of the 2.5-litre turbo diesel, which I don't mind saying is the best thing about this car. With 106 kilowatts and 343 newton meters, shifting this 2.5-ton beast is an absolute pleasure. The motor uses a variable nozzle turbo, which basically means the boost pressure can be electronically adjusted to make things as efficient as possible. This lowest rung on the Fortuner engine ladder will only be available with a 5-speed manual gearbox. It's also only available in 4x2, which means at 332,000 Rand, you don't get massive adventure built into the price. But with a rear diff lock, you will be able to venture further than most. Even though this car's had a towing capacity upgrade and the words raised body appear in its official title, you get the impression it's more about everyday driving. It's big, yes, almost as big as our Land Rover Discovery crew vehicle, and you sit high up and get to look over the heads of everyone selling things at traffic lights. But it's easy to handle, and thanks to the engine's power delivery, it generally feels fairly effortless. SUVs have got a tendency to feel a bit wallowy, a bit soft, but the Fortuner feels more together than most. Okay, it's not quite at sedan levels, but by way of comparison, its turning circle is only fractionally bigger than a 5 Series BMW. For such a big car, it is quite easily maneuverable and quite easy to live with. Which goes some way to explaining why it's such a popular choice around the country. It is fairly versatile too, offering a 7-seat configuration for anyone wanting to carry lots of people, but not so much stuff. And there may not be a whole lot of space for those in the last row, but they do benefit from a semi-independent air conditioning setup. All things considered though, the interior isn't great. It's all done in a colour that Toyota like to call sand beige, but it's more accurately described as camel, with the darker bits being a sort of wet camel. And then there are the silver pieces that just don't really match anything. The seat material is okay, but the bolsters are done in a sort of retro velour, and the standard spec is a bit odd. You get USB, which is nice, but no cruise control, which would surely be more useful. Not the most convincing cabin in the world, but in sheer practicality terms, it's about what you'd expect. Easy to use with lots of storage and comfortable enough to pack up everyone and venture out on a road trip. Just make sure they're on luggage rations, because the 7-seat arrangement in here isn't the world's best design, or most ergonomic to operate. Most designs have the third row folding flat into the floor, so when you don't need them, you have a decent sized boot. And when you do need them, generally, you just release a handle and pull the seats into place. The Fortuner has a rather low-tech arrangement that has the seats folded to one side when they're not being used, which means a crowded boot. And then it's a fairly clumsy set of operations using straps and hooks and hinges to get them into place when you do need them. Having spent time with the Toyota Fortuner, I now have a better understanding of just why it's so popular, but I still can't help think of it as the VW Passat of the SUV world. This bottom-of-the-range version has got good comfort and convenience, a strong engine and excellent road manners, but it just serves all of that up with zero personality. The new turbo diesel engine is the real star of this latest Fortuner show, although the styling upgrade is both effective and attractive too. However, those rearmost seats are not only old school but also clumsy to use. We'd rather do without. As for character, well, don't expect too much of that here.